In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to set up the login with Facebook functionality by using Bubble's Facebook plugin. This will allow you to have your users sign up to your application with their Facebook credentials as opposed to signing up with an email and password. It's a very popular type of functionality so that users don't have to keep track of another password. Working with networks that you can expect your users to have accounts with, such as social networks, Facebook, Instagram, Google, things like that, can make it a nicer user experience for them. Now, with many of these services, there are not a lot of settings to go through, but they all do have a common set of rules and settings that you do need to configure in order for this to work properly. Facebook happens to be a platform that has many different levels of control and security settings. So actually looking at this one as the first one to work with will expose you to absolutely everything you could possibly encounter, but also know that there are other services that are a bit simpler. So we're going to point out the most typical settings that you'll run into and to be aware of, while also understanding that Facebook has sometimes a few more hoops to jump through if you're going to request more scopes to access more details about a user's profile. You may need to submit your application for review. So I'll point out where that is relevant. The first thing that we'll want to do here is install the Facebook plugin to your Bubble application. So head over to the Plugins tab and go to Add Plugins and search for the Facebook plugin. This is the one published by Bubble. And we have a few different settings that we need to fill in here. Two of the most important ones here are your API ID and secret. Now you're going to create an account with Facebook, a developer account, to generate these, and we'll walk through those in a second here. The next one is the scope. So this is the level of access you want to get from the authorized user's Facebook profile. Most cases, simple is all you need, but you may also want to get extended access to their relationships that they have in their profile, so to get to their friend connections, okay? If you are going to include or get access to the user's profile URL, then you'll want to check this box, and the application that you create in the developer console with Facebook is going to need to go through an extra review. Again, I'll point out where that is relevant. So we're going to turn this off for now because for our purposes right now, just signing up the user, logging them in with their Facebook account, they don't need to have this here. The next setting here is a generic redirect URL. So essentially what will happen is the user is going to click on a button in a page that you design to say, I want to sign up with my Facebook account. And they are temporarily going to be redirected to a login screen on a hosted Facebook page so that they can log in with their Facebook account, and Facebook will send over an access token kind of behind the scenes to your Bubble app to say, okay, we've received the correct credentials, and here is a token that you can use to access certain account details for this Facebook user. Okay, so they are authorizing your app to get access to certain details on their behalf. Now, when Facebook has successfully logged them in and takes them back to your app, that is a redirect, and you have to specify what the redirect page is going to be. And basically things have to match on both sides. You're going to tell Facebook, we are expecting people to come from this page, and I want you to send them back to this page when they're done. If a user tries to trigger this whole process, with your ID and secret here, and it's not on one of the approved redirect URLs, then that's not authorized, and they're not going to be able to move through that successfully. So again, we have multiple layers of IDs and things that all have to align in order for the flow to go through properly. Now, you can specify pages in your application to allow for the redirect. It doesn't have to be every single page in your app. Bubble has exposed a generic redirect URL that you can take advantage of in case you have multiple entry points in your app on different pages and you don't want to have to set up those individual pages in the settings. You can just give Facebook one common URL, this one here, and Bubble will be in charge of receiving that redirect and then taking the user back to where they came from. I do recommend using this because it makes things more convenient. There's less room for error if you do have multiple entry points. If you only have one page, you can go either way. It doesn't really matter. All right. Now, what this plugin gives you is an action that you can use here to trigger when you click on that sign up button, right? So you design this button in your application, sign up with Facebook, and you'll want to run the sign up user with a social network. this one right here, and that's this action. And you'll choose the OAuth provider. So we've only got one installed in this application. If you have others like Instagram or Google, you'll select that depending on the button. And as a result of this, they're going to be taken to that login page. When they come back, it'll resume the workflow and save whatever details, if you want to do this, to your user record. Now that they are a user in the system, this user will have a built-in Facebook field so that you can access different properties from that user account. You don't get a ton of information, but kind of the basic ones here that if you want to save them to your database, you can. Now, as a side note, if you need a deeper integration with the Facebook API to get more details about the user, work with bigger scopes and things like that, then you don't want to use this Bubble plugin. Instead, you should go through the API connector tool so you have more control to get to other endpoints on the API. But we'll continue with this because this does handle most use cases that just want to be able to sign up their users with Facebook. Okay, so those are the main things to know about this plugin here. Now, you'll have to go over to Facebook's developer console. So you want to go to developers.facebook.com and create a new application. This does need to be connected to a Facebook profile. So you're going to need to log in to a Facebook account and head over to the My Apps section and create an app if you haven't already done that. You'll see a box like this here. It may also take you through some quick onboarding steps to name your app, maybe categorize the type of application it is, just some initial info. And ultimately, you'll end up on your dashboard for that application. If you have multiple apps, you'll see them out here. I'm currently filtered on mine because we have a lot of apps connected to our account. And you can also switch between those apps by clicking on this drop down here. Now, again, this console is very involved. There's a lot you can do here. Facebook actually has multiple products that you can attach to this app because they have a lot of different branches of their API. They actually also own Instagram, and so you can use this same application to enable Instagram capabilities and logging in with a user's Instagram account. Now we're just going to walk through the most important things you need to know in order to get this plugin to work. The first is at the very top here, you can see your app ID. You'll also see this under the basic settings. The app ID is right there, and that ID is going to go into the first field here in your plugin settings, okay? App ID, or we can see it as the API key. Let me switch back over to the setting. And then the next one is your app mode. So just like in your Bubble app, you have a development versus live mode. I encourage you to start with everything on development to test it all out before you go live with it and you deploy your application. And that's really everything we need to know here in this top bar. Now, under the basic settings, you do have a few things to fill out. So again, we can find our app ID, and then you'll also find your app secret here. When you expose that secret, just copy it and then paste it into the secret field here. Okay, you do need both of those things to authorize and get connected to your application on Facebook. Fill out the required details here, your display name. You'll need to provide the domain that your app lives on. So to start out, you will want the Bubble Apps domain here, bubbleapps.io. When you connect your application to a custom domain, don't forget to put that in here as well. You can have multiple domains. So let's say your custom domain is myapp.com. So make sure you put in myapp.com. You don't want a specific page, you just want the base domain here. Okay, you'll need to fill in some contact information wherever you're going to have your privacy policy and terms of service. And then your logo or your icon here for your application. A lot of this information is actually going to show up in the consent screen that your users are going to see when they go to log in with their Facebook details. Now, down below, you're also going to need to fill out some business address locations as well. So make sure to fill out everything that Facebook is asking for that's required. And then you'll want to hit Save Changes down here in the lower right corner. Okay, the next thing you're going to want to do is you can head back to your dashboard and scroll down to the bottom and go to the products list. Now, I've actually already installed 2 products, so we're not seeing them here, but if you're starting from the very beginning, you're going to see the Facebook login product and also the Instagram product. For this plugin that we're talking about in this video, we're just worried about the Facebook login. So go ahead and add that to your application, and that's going to enable these settings here specifically for Facebook login. So I'm going to head over to those settings. Okay, From here, we do want to enable client OAuth login as well as web OAuth login because you are building a web app on Bubble. You do want to enforce HTTPS, okay? And then down at the bottom here under the valid OAuth redirect URLs, this is where you're going to add the generic redirect URL you have here. As long as you've checked this box, then you do want to add this address here. Again, I do recommend it. It's very helpful. If you don't want to go with a generic redirect URL and just redirect from a very specific page in your app, then just add the URL to that page. Be mindful of the version of the domain that you are adding to this list. If you are going to include version test, make sure to also include the live version so that the live version of your application is also approved here. Also be mindful of your domain. If you start out with the Bubble hosted domain, it's fine to put it in there, but once you connect your app to a custom domain, don't forget to add that back in here as well as a valid OAuth redirect. These have to be exactly right. They have to match exactly the pages that your users are coming from. Also, if you're going to be testing with the debugger enabled in the URL, you'll want to have a version in there. A lot of times when we're configuring things like this, we'll have a ton of versions of URLs here so that every scenario is covered and we don't run into an error. Okay, so once that's all done, there's nothing else to do on this screen and you can click on Save Changes. From here, you should have everything enabled in order to do a test. Okay, so what we've got in our workflow is when this button is clicked, we're going to trigger that sign up action. We have our keys set up in the plugins area, and we're going to update our user, right, that just gets signed up here, and save the Facebook first name and the last name to the first and last name fields we have under the user data type. And over to the right, just to prove that we have connected properly, we're going to display those same values, the current user's Facebook first name and their last name. This can actually come from the database because we're saving it there, or it can come directly from that built-in Facebook object that is now attached to the user once they sign up successfully. So I'm going to click on this button and I'm going to be temporarily redirected to that Facebook login screen. Okay, so Coaching Sandbox, that's the name of my application that I created here in the developer console. And right now, if we look at our basic settings, notice that I don't have a login, or I should say a logo uploaded here, but that is what would display right here in this profile area. Okay, so I'm going to continue as myself. I should be logged into my Facebook account. And so it's going to redirect me back to the page that I came from. And if we see details show up here, there we go. We've properly connected to my Facebook account. There's my first and last name that's pulled in from my profile, as well as my ID for my profile. And if I head over to the user database, we can see there is the new user account that was created and the first and last name was saved. And this is the email address that is linked to that account as well. So there you have it. There is the connection to the Facebook sign up and login. At this point, the user can log out just like any other user and use the same action to log back in. Once they signed up, they're not going to see that permission screen again. It's just going to automatically log them in to their account, which is really nice and convenient. If you need to get more access to other areas of a user's profile, again, whether it's through this plugin exposing the user profile URL or through even the API connector, this app review section is where you would create those requests, and Facebook will ask for screenshots and even video walkthroughs of how you're going to use them. It is a more involved process, but it's for everybody's security to make sure that only the things that need to be exposed for a profile are getting accessed, and that the right people have access to them too. So go through these here. Bubble or Facebook has a lot of documentation on what will meet their requirements and when you would need to send things in for review. But for everything that we just went through, we didn't need to ask for additional access for basic sign up and login functionality. Just the API ID, secret, and the redirect URLs are all we need.